Dímelo, mi gente. Welcome back to Gonzalez Media TV. I am your host, as always, Jose G. And tonight, we're going to be talking WWE Raw. If you guys know me, if you guys been following me, I've been covering pro wrestling now for about 10 years. I took a little bit of a break, but I am back to talk about everything that's going on in WWE, especially with the road to WrestleMania just under 4 weeks away. Unbelievable. It's been great to see what's been happening so far, especially with a nice heel turn from John Cena. So I'm going to be touching on that and everything that went down last night. But joining me later on tonight is going to be Joel Thomas, who's also a huge wrestling fan. He's from the Free the Rabbit podcast. And speaking of Joel, he's just arrived here, so he'll be joining me in just a moment. But guys, make sure you follow the channel, follow the page, show your support by following Gonzalez Media TV on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, at Gonzalez Media TV. Also, you can check us out on Millions. We're broadcasting there right now as we speak. Millions is a great platform that connects athletes and creators alike. It is a company that is spearheaded by UFC ring announcer Bruce Buffer, and it is an amazing platform. Go ahead and check me out at millions.co. It's a fantastic platform. Make sure you smash that like button tonight. Share the show out in your favorite wrestling group, and let us know where you're watching from. All right, guys? So tonight we're going to be covering everything that went down on last night's Monday Night Raw. And let me bring on my compadre, my other guy that loves pro wrestling just like me, Joel L. Thomas. Yeah. What's up, broski? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Good.
Welcome back to the channel. You came to my other podcast last year on Cultura Truth Project. I've kind of let that, steam down for a little bit, but I'm back in wrestling, back in combat sports. This is my bread and butter. I love talking about this with you. We text all the time of everything that's going on. So what a better person to bring on the show today to talk about some WWE. But Joel, man, let the people know where they can follow you and any projects you got going on.
Yeah, you can find me at Linktree/Joel Thomas Media. We got a lot going on. I got a couple films about to drop. I got one film coming out in 2 months, and then I got another film coming out in about 5 or 6 months. So I've got several, and I'm about to shoot another one in a month. So we got a lot of films. Yeah, we probably got right now, like in the vault right now, about 5 films. So, and we're still shooting more. So
man, where do you find the time to watch wrestling?
Man, I tell you what, I make time.
You have to make time. You have to make time. Shout out to everyone watching us on Instagram as well. We are live over there. Bobby the Comic, Todd Atkins Show. Everyone over there, thank you for joining us. But man, let's get into it, man, because it's been a hot road to WrestleMania so far. You were at the Royal Rumble. You got to see it live and in person, man. The heel turn of the century. It's been the most talked about heel turn since Hogan joining the NWO. So last night is the first time we hear from Cena since that turn at the Royal Rumble. He was booed in Brussels like crazy. It was a great crowd. Overall, the show I thought was fantastic, but that crowd, Joel, that crowd was on fire last night.
Yeah, man. Generally speaking, the overseas crowds are insane. Like Europe, you go to France, or like they were in Brussels. You just knew it was going to be next level. And I think they picked the perfect place for Cena to do his first heel promo, because I don't know if it would have been as impactful in some places in the United States, just because it just depends on where you're at, right? Some arenas are awesome and they're crazy. Like I went to NXT in Cincinnati with the Hardy Boys with their first match, technically wrestling back with the WWE, even though they were the TNA champions. I got to see them wrestle in person, and that crowd was pretty live. NXT crowds are always pretty live anyway. That's your hardcore WWE wrestling fans right there. They're generally going to your NXT events. But I will say that I know some people had some trepidation on whether or not Cena should have done it out of the States or not. I think there was a little bit of idea that maybe they would be cheering for him more than booing him, but that was
Mm.
not the case, man. They were booing him out the building. And he called out the ones that still root for him. He would just
It
went
was
full on
great.
heel. Yeah, it was great.
It was great. It was almost it was an adult reprimanding children and just telling their children, "I'm done with you." And I thought it was fantastic. But let's get into it, man, because the night opened up with Cena coming into the arena to booze like crazy, man. It was kind of spectacular. They kept the same music, they kept the same attire. Social media was going crazy if there was going to be some type of change of persona with Cena with his heel turn. As you can see, he kept all of his attire. And it was a good solid 30 minutes of just him and the crowd going back and forth. You know, it was good, at least 10 to start off with, where he's just kind of like put the mic down, go out of the ring, put the mic down. And he was just kind of like, that just goes to tell you the power that he has of moving the crowd how he wants to move. Like, there's only very few people that can do that. The Rock is one of them. John Cena is another. And he did such an amazing job of just taking the crowd on a ride last night, right? And then he goes on to give his explanation, right? And he's like, "You guys," he's like, "I realize that I am in a toxic relationship with you guys." And I thought that was just great. And then he did not break at all. Like, he just stayed right on there. And he's like, "You did this, you did that. Oh, and do you guys that cheer for me? You guys can go suck a dick too." Pretty much. It was great the way that he was just reprimanding the fans for over the last 25 years. I mean, look at that shot right there.
Yeah, it was gold. And I love the fact that he actually talked about the fact that he was still wearing the same attire and came out with the same music too, because everybody was assuming that he was going to go full on new persona, which I still think's coming. I still think's going to come. I think that they're going to play this out a little bit though. I think it's going to be a slow burn. I honestly feel like it's going to be a slow burn into whatever they're creating with Cena, because he's going to have, at least in the short term, some sort of heel run during this last year. I do think he's going to end back on the babyface end of it at some point, just in my opinion. But I will say I've got a lot of speculation on where I think it might go, but I do think though that he's going to flirt with the idea of changing into a little bit different persona, but he's going to do it on his time. I think they're going to play with the fans. They're not going to give the fans what they want. And I think
Yeah.
Triple H is a master at doing that because, you got all the smarks and the marks, man. They think they know everything. I'm one of
Yeah.
them. So, we always think we got it figured out. And I'll say I'm generally pretty good 50-50, man. I'll call stuff before it happens, and people are like, "Man, you called that." And my girl says all the time, "I was like, man, how'd you know that?" I was like, "I've just been watching wrestling for 40 years, man." Like
My wife
I've
says the same thing. Like for example, like this whole storyline with Bianca, Naomi, and Jade. I
yeah,
called that 3 months ahead of time. I'm like, it's
yeah,
Naomi. It has
yeah,
to be Naomi
yeah. I
because
did
she's
too.
the only one, and we'll jump into that story at another time because I don't
Right.
want to get veer away from the show. But that's just an example because fans that have been watching this, we recognize these patterns and they rehash a lot of these storylines.
Right.
These are the same storylines from 20, 25 years ago, but with new characters.
Yeah,
Why
and I
why fix a broken something that ain't broken?
right, and I do think that in some ways they're going to mirror the Hulk Hogan turn in some ways. Like you said, they always kind of rehash certain things. And he's kind of playing to the fans like Hogan played to the fans whenever he turned, where he blamed the
Mhm.
fans. It's a little different in the sense of Hogan was already getting booed and people were tired of the babyface Hogan. Whereas this time, people were all jacked for Cena. Even people that hated Cena just really respect him now. So everybody was just ready for this babyface kind of last hoorah, and then he flipped everybody on their head, which I'm not mad at all. We've all been wanting to see this forever, and I think that he's got all the juice for it. And Cody is white meat babyface to the fullest. So if anything, it's just going to keep pushing Cody into that new John Cena, the John Cena role that he used to be in. And I think this is part of what they want to do with Cody. I don't think Cody's winning at Mania, but I do think, though, that it's ultimately going to go to Cody's favor in the end, because they want Cody to be the Make-A-Wish guy. They want him to be the new Cena.
Well, after Cena was scolding the crowd for at least 25, 30 minutes, Cody Rhodes decides to come out and finally confront John Cena. And it was, more of the same of last week. But this time, one of the lines that he dropped, and this is part of our thumbnail right over here, he's like, all I'm hearing is like, you're being a whiny little bitch. This isn't the John Cena that I recognized from 25 years ago. This is a whole different John Cena, which alludes to what you were saying, was like, maybe it's going to be a slow burn. Maybe we do start seeing the change of persona. Like maybe next week, instead of like coming with a t-shirt and jorts, he comes in with a buttoned up shirt and jorts, right? And then the following week, he makes it, button up shirt and then slacks. Like it's a slow transformation until WrestleMania, until he's full suited up corporate John Cena, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm speculating. It's fun to speculate, but I like that idea, right? So Cena was speechless after Cody dropped that line on him, and the promo closes out. But this was a solid 35-minute promo to open up Monday Night Raw. And I thought it was a great way to open up Monday Night Raw. And I think ever since they've been on Netflix now, they've just been let their wings open. They can do whatever they want. You don't have to have a full 3-hour show. I love when they do, 2 hour, 20 minutes of only a 2 hour, right? You don't need to have a 3-hour show every single Monday night. And I love that they have that flexibility with Netflix, and that was a great opening promo for last night, man.
No, I completely agree. It couldn't have been any better, in my opinion. And I like the way it closed out. I like there wasn't any physicality yet. They're kind of letting that slow burn too. I mean, it's inevitable that Cody's going to get drugged through the ringer before Mania hits. So we know that's happening. Side note, I don't know if you saw this. You were talking about fantasy booking and things happening, because I do think that the fight with Cena and Cody's going to de-evolve and people are going to get involved. It's not going to be just them, right? I do think there's going to be some Rock and maybe Travis Scott, some other people maybe, but Stone Cold is going to be in Vegas signing. And I thought that was real interesting. I saw that the other day, that he's actually going to be at the Superstore. And it's kind of weird. Like, people were expecting him to be there last year, and it ended up being Taker, which, by the way, it was supposed to be Stone Cold, but he was having surgery and they'd asked him to do it, and he ended up not doing it. So they supplemented Undertaker. So I don't know. I still think even if Stone Cold shows up, Cody's losing. I just think Cody's got to lose. If you're going to make Cena heel and do it right, give him the 17th with him being a heel. I think people enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation online on what could possibly happen at WrestleMania. One of them you just mentioned there is, the possibility of having Travis Scott involved, right? There's been some reports, even an interview where Travis Scott was talking about being trained by Booker T recently. And then that led to some other speculation of having some social media interactions with Bad Bunny, right? So I think this is the perfect formula. If you're going to do it for WrestleMania, you're going to have their three. So Final Boss, Travis Scott, John Cena. Then you have Cody's three. So you got Cody, Stone Cold, and Benito. Now, how are we going to develop those stories between now and WrestleMania? I don't know yet. All I can tell you is that from the Puerto Rican side that I follow is that Benito's not touring right now. Bad Bunny's not touring. Okay. I don't have any word from any of my contacts in Orlando, because he trains in Orlando, that he's full-time training or at the Performance Center. So I have no word of that. So is that a possibility? I don't know. Very, very slim that he actually shows up. However, Stone Cold, that's The Rock's nemesis right there, bro. So I think there is a very high possibility that we do see Stone Cold involved in that matchup in the main event on night 2. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I kind of agree with you, and I have the feeling that it makes sense to have Cena get his 17th, have a heel run and have it make sense because this is his farewell tour. This is his last year. So it only makes sense for him to get that title belt. However, things sometimes don't happen the way we like it to,
Yeah.
and maybe they have something else in the pipeline for us. All I like to say is let's just enjoy the ride, Joel.
Absolutely, man. And, he's getting 17 regardless if he gets it
Oh,
at
for
Mania or
sure.
not. That's happening before he's done with this run. I do think, though, that it would be a missed opportunity if they don't give him the belt as a heel, because I do think that people would really like to see that. And I
Well,
know me
that also
personally.
the other thing on top of that, right? Because he is John Cena now, he can do that Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns schedule with the title. Remember when Brock
Right.
used to take that title hostage and we wouldn't see it for 2 months at a time?
Yep.
Cena can do the same.
He can.
Cena can do the very same exact thing, and the people will eat it up anyways. They'll complain about it, but they will eat it up at the same time. So
I do think there's a strong possibility too, and I stay on the internet reading wrestling and all this kind of stuff, and I probably look way too deep into things anyway. But that's just my personality, man. I love doing it, but I do think there's a strong possibility that they are shaping up to have some sort of faction with Cena after Mania for at least a short run, and this is getting real speculative here, but if you remember the WrestleMania during the pandemic when Bray Wyatt fought Cena and Cena came out with the NWO shirt on and he basically told Cena that he foresaw this happening. If they want to sell merch, man, they could take the NWO stuff right back out of the way back in the back and bring it back out, and it would go crazy. I mean, even for 3-4 months, man, it might be interesting. Plus, if they want to try to push some of these other stars into the limelight, you might saddle him up with a Drew McIntyre or some of these guys who feel a little slighted and have ties to The Rock, which Drew McIntyre does. I know it was really interesting. I know I mentioned you, LA Knight. I thought it was really interesting. They showed the clip of The Rock during the promo right before Elimination Chamber when he was with LA Knight, back when LA Knight was on his reality show. And if you remember during that reality show, LA Knight sold out his team for $35,000. So they could play that into a storyline too. There's so many angles they could do. Plus, you got
there is.
Mello. Mello said that he would take the deal, and Logan Paul also were blasting Cody for not taking the deal and said they would take the deal. So you got some options if they were decide to go that route of building some sort of little faction around John Cena and turning it into a NWO-esque type thing. I don't know if they will, but
I like that.
it's there.
I like that. I like that, especially with I like what they're doing with Mello and Miz right now. I think that's a pretty cool dynamic and a good chemistry. I wouldn't mess around too much with that. However, I am inclined and interested to see if Logan Paul is that guy, because that guy is hated by the crowd. The crowd
He'd
does
fit
not like.
perfect.
He'd be perfect. He'd be perfect. And I've gotten flack for this too because I have given him praise in previous podcasts. I've said that the guy, for not having nearly as much experience as a lot of the veterans there, the guy performs at a very high level and he's very good at what he does. And not everybody can do that type of work. So you got to give roses where they're due, right? You got to give him credit where it's due. And he could, and he's already hated. Put him with Cena. And Rock. Psst. There's no, I don't think there's anything you can't do with that guy. But let's keep talking about Monday Night Raw. We had a nice matchup here between Ludwig Kaiser and Penta El Cero Miedo. And man, I was actually really surprised on how over Penta was in Brussels, dude. It was very, very surprising to see the amount of love he got over there. And wow, not even in the States he got that amount of pop, because when he would drop the Cero Miedo, the crowd would go right with him. But it was a good matchup. Penta got the win in Brussels. But overall, man, this crowd was just all in for Penta, and now Penta has his eyes on the IC title against Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker had an amazing matchup last night as well, but Penta and Braun, I think they're gonna bring the house down whenever. I think that's probably gonna be either a WrestleMania. If it's not a WrestleMania match, it's probably gonna be on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it's not WrestleMania. The only way it won't be is if they're going to try to implement somebody else into the feud with them because there's so many people going after that title. And they've kind of had Braun on the shelf a little bit the past couple months with that belt. He's only defended it, I think, one other time during that stretch. So, again, I don't know what they're doing with Finn. They keep screwing with Finn. I think Finn gets kicked out of Judgment Day in my opinion. I think that's the next move forward. I just think he's out, and I think the rest of them want him out. I think he's going to go babyface at some point. I'm hearing rumblings that Finn could get a run at some point because I know he was originally one of Triple H's guys from NXT. So I could see that happening. Maybe break out the Demon and do it right instead of having the Demon lose the past 2 times, which is ludicrous in my opinion. But back to Penta. He's super over. He's over everywhere he goes. And by the way, his brother looks like he's about to be over in WWE too, Phoenix. So that's going to be wild when you get both of them there. I do kind of think they're going to keep them separated, though, for a little bit. I don't think they're going to jump them right back into the tag team that they were, the Lucha Brothers. I don't think they're going to do that. But I do think that Penta's over, and it would not shock me if he beats Braun Breaker at WrestleMania for that belt. I just kind of see Braun Breaker moving into that main event scene sooner rather than later. He's just super over, and I know they want to strap a rocket to him bad, like they really do.
Yeah, Braun is. I remember talking to him a few years ago when he was NXT champ and had just made his Raw debut at WrestleMania over in Dallas, and you could tell the change between 2022 and now. Man, he is just focused. He is on gear. He knows what he wants to do. I read a report. I think it was either from Fightful or Pro Wrestling or Figure Four Online, that Paul Heyman has a heavy interest in Braun Breaker. That whenever he decides to not work with Roman anymore, if Roman takes a back seat, it looks like he's going to be managing Braun Breaker. I don't know how true that is. I tend to believe it because I've read some other articles regarding his interest in working with Braun Breaker. There was a brief meeting with him and Braun, I think, when Paul had just came back after injury and all that stuff with the Bloodline storyline. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with Braun, and Braun definitely gives me Brock Lesnar vibes, right? He's like that once in a generation talent that once you develop him right, he's going to be hard to take down. You're never going to see that guy lose. It's going to be hard for him to see him lose.
Totally agree with that. And I also think he's a little bit ahead of Brock Lesnar was when he first came in on the mic. So I think that his mic skills are a lot better than Brock's were when he first came in.
100%.
Wrestling wise, I think they're both comparable because I think they both have a lot of shoot wrestling background as well. Both of them do. And obviously, Braun played football. So he's got a lot of things going on when it comes to athleticism, and his family's just full of athletes. It looks like Brock Steiner's also coming in to wrestle now too. I was listening to an interview with Scott Steiner the other day talking about that, which was super interesting. So yeah, I would not shock me in the next 5-10 years that the Steiners are running rampant all through WWE. Like the old
for sure. For sure, man. All right, man. Let's keep moving along. Here we had American Made. They had a little matchup here. Ivy Nile going up against Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai, one of my favorite female wrestlers on Monday Night Raw. She got a win rather quickly in this matchup here. They're really trying to sell this feud between him and Chad Gable. Chad Gable going out to Mexico and trying to learn the dark arts of lucha libre. Honestly, if what they're trying to do here with the LWO and him going to Mexico to get this training, I think they're probably going to start putting together this whole Lucha Underground thing that the WWE got the rights to, right? If you have been following wrestling at least for the last 10 years, Lucha Underground was an amazing promotion on El Rey Network. It went on for 4 seasons, and a lot of the guys that we're seeing right now in the WWE, Penta, um, uh, Escobar, right? Santos Escobar, he was in there. A lot of people in AEW, they all came from Lucha Underground, right? And it's fantastic that now we have something as unique as Lucha Underground incorporated into the WWE. So now we're starting to see little vignettes and little teases for Ray Phoenix, right? There was a report of the guy, the general manager of Lucha Underground, who's now one of the general managers at MLW. He is in talks of getting a contract. So all those characters, right? Mil Muertes, even Io Sky, she was part of I forgot, the Black Lotus. They were all part of Lucha Underground. So for me, it makes absolute sense for WWE to get the rights and to start using these characters. And what are they going to do with it? I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to like spawn off like a little side story series. Are they going to do kind of like what they do with NXT and NXT Underground, where they have, a Lucha Underground segment on Raw? I don't know. The possibilities are endless, but I think that this is where it's leading.
Yeah, no, I think they're doing something for sure because it seems like they're really ramping up the Lucha Libres big time, man. It seems like they're putting rockets to all of them right now, and I think Gable's going to be smack dab in the middle of it. Matter of fact, we talk about how that wrestling seems to rehash storylines. It reminds me a lot of the Hulk Hogan Mr. America storyline where he had the mask on and he was trying to trick Vince and say that he wasn't actually Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you
Oh
remember.
yeah,
He strapped him up to
yeah.
to the polygraph machine, and he passed it somehow and said he wasn't Hulk Hogan.
Just so
But
good.
it reminds me of that because if you'll remember, there was Hulk Hogan in two places where he had the mask on and he was over here, and it kind of reminded me of that with Gable too, where he's having that conversation, and then they're hauling out this this guy who looks like he's the same size as Gable, but he's got the mask on. He's like, "See, it's not me." So I think we're going to get a lot of that with Gable right now, a lot of mind
Like that.
games. I think Gable's
Yeah,
going
for
to be playing
sure.
a lot of mind games right now with the specifically Rey Mysterio and the LWO. I will say this, though. I'm a huge fan of American Made, and I just think they're kind of wasting them, and I wish they would do something with them. I really, really like all the wrestlers involved. They just got them losing and losing and losing. And I don't know if that's part of the story, and they're going to build it into something. And I'm a big fan of let's just see where it goes, right? And then if it ends bad, then we can be like, yeah, we kind of saw that coming. They really weren't doing anything with it. But I think American Made's got something there. I always thought that whenever they put them all together. I
Agreed.
just think that they're too good. Ivy Niles really good too. And I just feel like that. And I'm a Dakota Kai fan too, just like you are. But I've always liked Ivy now, and I thought they did a great job
Same.
turning her heel. I think she's a better heel than she is a babyface, in my opinion.
For sure.
But I do feel like that at some point they got to make the turn with these guys, especially Gable. I mean, he has just been hovering for 2 years around a singles belt and hasn't got one yet, and he's too good. He's so good on the mic, and he's good in the ring, phenomenal in the ring. They got to do something at some point. They got to pull the trigger with him. I think they will, but I think maybe this story is going to catapult them into wherever they want them to go.
Yeah, man, I think you're right about that because it's like every time we've seen him go for that singles belt, he always falls short, man. And he's such an amazing talent. And I don't know what the right path for him is. Do you keep him in a faction? Do you have him just go solo, right? Do you put him back in attack? And he could really flourish anywhere. That's the beauty about Chad Gable. He's so versatile. He's just a technician in the ring. He's a genius on the mic. When he was with Otis, man, shush. Thank you. I mean, that was gold, right? And
Yeah.
that wasn't it didn't last long. So I don't know what needs to happen with Chad Gable for him to be a little bit more relevant. But there is something to that team, man, because they're all just so amazingly good. Moving on to the contract signing. So we had a contract signing on Monday. We saw that that Bianca and Io Sky. Oops, sorry, wrong one. There we go. Bianca and Io Sky were there in center ring to sign their contracts. And this was like the most civil contract signing I've ever seen until Rhea Ripley arrived, because, contract signings never go as scheduled in the WWE. So that obviously happened over here. But what happened last night is that Rhea just interjected herself into the triple threat match, just literally walks down. Adam Pearce is like, "Give me the referees." And Rhea comes in and she starts beefing with Bianca. Bianca shoves Io's face. Man, the disrespect. And she told her, "You will not disrespect me again," during that promo. Rhea's just smiling in her face. She headbutts Bianca Belair, kicks Io Sky, and power bombs Io Sky on the table where Bianca Belair is, and the table did not give. So she goes ahead and proceeds to sign the contract, interjecting herself into this World Women's Championship match at WrestleMania. I kind of saw this coming because they really want to save Rhea and Bianca and build that up for maybe next year's WrestleMania. They've been teasing that matchup for at least 3 or 4 years now. And I don't know why they don't want to pull that trigger, because that is a mega matchup right there. I'm not sure if they're waiting for Jade versus Bianca first. But I don't know why they haven't decided just to do the one-on-one with her. I get that Io Sky is amazing, and she really is. She's over with the crowd. I don't know what the thought process is of putting Io in the main event as opposed to just having Rhea and Bianca. But I'm still here for it, man. I'm still okay with this triple threat match, because it's still gonna blow the roof off in Vegas. But I still would have wanted to see the one-on-one with Rhea and Bianca.
I do agree with you in the sense of it seems a little convoluted right now, but I'm a huge Io fan, and she's one of my top 3 favorite women's wrestlers right now. So that would be her. I love Roxanne Perez a lot as well, and Alexa Bliss has always been the #1 female wrestler for me all time, by the way. So those are my top 3. Not to say I don't like a lot of the other ones too. They're just my top 3. So I was not mad when Io got the belt, because I jumped off the couch and I would love the swerve because nobody expected it, and I loved it. But immediately when it happened, I turned over and I looked at my son and I was like, "It's turned to a triple threat. It's where it's going." You just kind of knew it was when Bianca shows up during the match. It just seemed like it was going that way. Now I know you and I are a little different in what we think about where they're going to go with Bianca, because we were texting back and forth a little bit, and you kind of foresee her going like straight white meat baby face. You think this is going to be kind of the build into that. I kind of think that maybe. And I've been noticing the past couple of weeks the trend of clothes she's wearing. She's been wearing a lot of reds, a lot of blacks, a lot of like darker colors. So in my mind, I'm thinking there's a possible swerve coming where she turns heel for the first time since NXT days, where either she did set the hit out with Naomi to do that, or she ends up siding with Naomi and it's like, you did do it for me, whatever. You know what I mean? It's a possibility. I just feel like you got a lot of baby faces right now in this triple threat, and we really don't have any clear-cut heels at all. I'm not saying it can't work with 3 baby faces, and you may be completely right. They may be going full-on white meat baby face, and it wouldn't shock me, right? Because they love. She's a merch seller, so I get that part of it too. But I'm just trying to figure out the angle, because there's no real heel here at all. Rhea can do heel stuff all day. She's a tweener, so she can do heel stuff all day, and it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to take it that way. It's just like some of the other great tweeners that are in the business right now. It's not a big shift between heel or face for them. They're still kind of the same character. Rhea's always going to be this. I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to take it no matter what. And nobody's going to think heel activities, even though they're completely heel activities that she did on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I get it. And especially when you see what the Street Profits are doing right now, they kind of been turning a little bit more to the dark side, not full heel yet, but a little bit more aggression to their baby face. So they might be kind of like treading that line. So Bianca might be doing the same. And I won't be mad. I won't be disappointed if she definitely pulls that trigger and decides to team up with Naomi and be like, "Yeah, you know what? I did realize that you did it for me, and that'd be cool." I don't know if that's the road that they're taking.
Right.
I would love to see it, But right now, man, I just feel that they really want to keep her white meat baby face,
Yeah.
for the reasons that you just mentioned, right? That
Mhm.
she's a good
Yeah.
merch seller. The kids love her, and they already they don't have anybody right now that's in that status of that white meat baby face female right now. Not
Right.
yet, so and she could be that person. So we'll see what happens. Jey Uso had a matchup that ended really quickly against Austin Theory. I was very surprised on how quickly this ended up. Quick spear in the middle, not even a minute in, got the W. That was pretty cool. But then Gunter later on decided to attack him. Oh my God. Do you remember? Did you see that spot where he almost broke his neck right over here? In the turnbuckle? That was
Yeah.
crazy, dude. Like his foot got cut up on the top rope and he just like almost like vertically hit the apron there. I was like, oh my God, this guy almost died.
Yeah, my son immediately looked over to me and he was like, "The IWC is going to have a field day with that online because they're already mad
Uh-huh.
about." Well, and that's the thing, right? So I was at Royal Rumble when he won, and it was shocker. Like nobody thought that Jey Uso was going to win the Royal Rumble. In retrospect, I get why they did it because they wanted Cena to lose because they had this plan for Cena to go heel and they wanted him to win an Elimination Chamber. And honestly, I don't know who else they would have had win it outside of maybe Punk, but they've got this whole program with Punk and Roman and Seth planned out for WrestleMania. So that's where that's going. I will say this. I like Jay, but there's a big but here. I don't really like what they're doing with this buildup at all with him and Gunther. I'm just not invested. And I think that the issue is you just had them wrestle at Saturday Night Main Event. I think I would have held off on that and not had them wrestle at Saturday Night Main Event and built this more because people are. It's just listen. I know the IWC is vastly different than the mainstream watching audience because I'm part of the mainstream watching audience. I go to events. I see what it's like to be there. It's completely different.
Same.
The casual watcher is completely different than the keyboard warriors online. It's always going to be that way. Guys, wrestling fans are notorious for complaining about literally everything. So I'm not one of those guys, but I will say this. I'm not that invested. I just feel like we're getting the same thing every week. We're getting Gunther run up behind him, choke him out with a sleeper. Jay, I was kind of disappointed in the match. Like, I get why they did it because they're trying to make Jay this unstoppable force going into WrestleMania so it looks like he's actually got a shot against Gunther, right? But it doesn't help when he trips and falls over the ring when he's trying to do a suicide dive. And then the IWC's going crazy online. They're already saying he's out of shape, right? People complain all the time about the Usos all the time that because they fluctuate. I've watched Total Divas. They talk about it. Jimmy is notorious for it. Like he'll go on a diet and then he's not on a diet. They go on a diet.
Yeah.
It's what they've always done, right? And I'm not saying that you have to be like in like some sort of crazy shape to be a wrestler anyway. You just got to be in ring shape, right? It doesn't matter. Like look at Otis, right? Otis is a tank, but he's super athletic. You got all kind of different body types, right? I'm very aware of all that. But it doesn't help when people aren't super invested in this because it's not going to main event either night at WrestleMania. It's probably going to open night one, in my opinion. Probably going to open night one, maybe open night two. I'm not a fan of it. I really am not invested in this thing. We know Jay's going to win. It's almost inevitable at this point. I'd be shocked. Why would they have Jay lose? I just think that would be stupid. He's going to beat Gunther. Jay's got a couple of weaknesses, and one of his big weaknesses is mic work. He's not super fluid on the mic work. I think Jimmy's better, in my opinion. I've watched Jimmy on the mic. I think Jimmy's got a better presence on the mic. Jay really relies on the crowd to get into whatever he's saying. Now, he's good at making those pauses, so they'll hit the yeets in between. He's really good at that. But if you need him to just cut a promo and really go in, he's shaky. And I'm not saying he can't get better. I'm not saying that he's awful. Maybe this is just this lead up to WrestleMania. And again, this is me saying this as a Jey Uso fan. I really appreciate what he does. I've been in the building with the entire arena in Indianapolis yeeting. I mean, it's amazing, right? It's amazing what he's done to get himself over to this point, and you can't knock that part of it. But when it comes to Gunther is touted as this unstoppable tank, right? Outside of some little flub ups they did with Priest, which I despise that whole thing, but I get why they did it. But Gunther's a tank. Like, he's supposed to be kind of in that Brock Lesnar arena of guys
Yeah.
that you can't stop. And you want the underdog to feel like you're behind him, that you're all fully behind him. You're invested in him taking out Gunther. And I just don't really get that. And even being at Indianapolis, I was talking to some of the fans on the way out. They're kind of like, yeah, I guess, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're happy to see it. We're going to yeet, but I just kind of feel like, the thing was the sales went out because everybody thought Punk was going to win. They just assumed Punk was winning it. Punk's going to WrestleMania. He's going to headline WrestleMania. And maybe he still does. Maybe the WrestleMania match with him, Roman, and Rollins is night one's closer. It could end up being, he could end up main event in WrestleMania anyway. Who knows? But I think that's why people were feeling that way. I'm not against the Jey winning Royal Rumble. Let's make that clear. I do feel like they've got a month. They need to make me invested in this. And to me, the best way to do it, and they kind of teased it on SmackDown, the best way to do it is have Gunther start taking out his family. That would make people super invested if he was just beating up on Jimmy, beating up on Sami Zayn, just doing something that makes Jay's back literally against the wall instead of him protecting like Alpha Academy. Like, that's not, I don't need that going to WrestleMania. I need to be invested in these two guys going at each other and it being at the death. I need to see more backstage brawls, more things that kind of what they're doing with Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton. They made me super invested on SmackDown now. I wasn't as invested with that either. And then when that brawl happened and then it spawned out another brawl and then she swantoned off of the top of the Titantron. I'm in now. Right?
Yeah.
I need to see that with Jey and Gunther. I'm not saying they can't pull it off because I think they got time, but they need to make me invested in this.
Yeah, I think what happened here is that Gunther kind of gave us how it was going to start. He's like, I'm not excited about this matchup. Why should you be excited for this matchup? Right. So I think that's how it started and that's how everybody felt. And I think that's how, honestly, I felt like that too. I'm like, okay, I'm not that invested, but let's kind of see what's going to happen. They got 4 weeks. They got 4 weeks to start putting some nitrous in this storyline and letting it go so people can start sinking their teeth in this storyline. Right now, the storylines that I can sink my teeth in right now heading into WrestleMania, we got Jade Cargill and the Naomi situation with Bianca Belair. That's a great story I can sink my teeth in going into Mania. Roman Punk Rollins. That's a story that goes over 10 years. Yeah. That story spans back to 2012 to the debut of The Shield, when The Shield interrupted the matchup with CM Punk and Ryback. Okay. That's how far back this story goes. So that I can sink my teeth into that right now. But I can't sink my teeth into Jey and Gunther just quite yet because all I've seen is just Jey get laid out for the last 3 weeks. So until Jey starts laying out Gunther over the next 3 weeks, then I could start, sinking my teeth and be like, okay, he has a real chance. And I think the point that you brought up of having Gunther attack his family physically, now that, Jimmy stood up for his brother on SmackDown last Friday, I think that makes a lot of sense for Gunther to start going into that move, to start provoking Jey. So that way the fans could be like, oh shit, Jey needs to start doing something to protect his family, and heading into Mania. So that's my only thing right now that I have with that particular storyline is just Jey. They're not making Jey look good heading into this matchup in Mania. Right. And he needs to look good. They've been building him up. They gave him the Royal Rumble. why aren't you not building him up? So right now, the next 4 weeks, I would like to see this storyline start veer more towards Jay, where Jay starts getting his hand up at the end of the show or at the end of the interactions. Then at Mania, that go home show, have some type of brawl, some type of standoff, something where they're both at a stalemate, and then we have the final episode at Mania, right? Which hopefully Jay wins that one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I think you were spot on with that story, because I feel the same exact way, man. All right, man. Let's move really quick here. Seth Rollins had a promo addressing the situation with Roman Reigns and the situation with CM Punk, and it was very interesting because he expected it. He knew it was going to happen. Again, this is a story that spans out over 10 years. So we're talking since 2012. This has been going on. Shit, that one. There we go. So he's just pretty much reminding the crowd why he's there, that this is going to happen. And, I didn't really think so much about this promo. It wasn't like very captivating. It was more like fill-in time until the main event, because that's what we got. But it was just him addressing what happened last Monday. Roman Reigns returned last Monday, took out Seth Rollins, some retribution from Royal Rumble. So that's what we're at right now with the whole Seth Rollins situation. Again, not much to talk about in that promo unless you found something interesting.
I'm with you. I just think it was filler, and they knew that Seth Rollins comes out, the crowd's going to sing along with him the whole time.
Which is exactly what happened for like
exactly
10 minutes.
Did. I will say this, though, going into this triple threat, which I do think, unless they do what you suggested and they have some sort of night one Cody team versus Rock Cena team, which is a possibility. They did it last year, so it's not to say they can't do it. But I'm leaning towards, if they don't go that route, that the Roman, Seth, and CM Punk was going to close night one. I kind of got a feeling that they're going to run that route. It's going to give CM Punk that WrestleMania main event that has eluded him, but there's no title involved. Also, look out for Paul Heyman. What's he up to? Because he was hugging up on CM Punk, and what's this favor? And I love how they keep bringing it up to put it back in your mind zeitgeist every single time, because Wade Barrett brought it up on SmackDown, and so did Corey Graves. He brought it up on Monday. They just keep sliding that out there. What's the favor? What's the favor? So I do think at some point that Paul is going to align back with CM Punk. I think maybe that's how CM Punk gets that championship down the road. Maybe CM Punk's the guy that beats John Cena. Maybe that happens at SummerSlam. Maybe Cena gets the belt, holds it all the way to SummerSlam, and it ends up being Punk. I know everybody thinks it's going to be Cody get it back, but maybe it's not. Maybe they go the CM Punk route, because there's a lot of history there with Cena and CM Punk too. And
for sure.
With Paul, there's some shadiness going on there with Paul, man. And Roman saw it. He went in there and lit Punk up. So look out for that in that triple threat, because something's amiss. And triple threats, just like I do, it's no disqualification. So anybody can get involved. Anything can happen.
And if people have good memory, Roman Reigns has no problem disciplining his wise man. So if that has to come about, he has no problem Superman punching Paul Heyman in the face, because he's done it before. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. But we did have a really good main event last night. It was Braun Breaker, Finn Balor for the IC title. It's been a minute since Finn Balor has had an IC title opportunity. It's been quite a few years since he's held that title. But I'm a huge Finn Balor fan. I've been following him since he was, Fergal over here in fucking Japan, when he was doing all that stuff with Devitt over there with Bullet Club, when he started the Bullet Club. So, I've been following him for such a long time. So I'm kind of disappointed he isn't where he needed to be, right? He had that injury in 2016 when he became Universal Champion. And it just never really been a good run for him, even when he was, doing the Finn Balor, the Demon stuff. Anyways, this matchup was really good. Judgment Day came and interfered a little bit in this matchup. But Braun Breaker, as always, he's the stud, man. He got the big W, defended his title. It was a pretty tough battle for him last night, but he got the win. Little miscommunication there last night between Dom and Finn. There's just some stuff that's been happening with inside the Judgment Day. A little bit of contention between Dom and Finn, which leads to kind of like what you were saying earlier, that maybe Finn gets kicked out of the Judgment Day. I don't know if that's something that would happen. Maybe he goes like the Damian Priest route and he just leaves the Judgment Day, right? Either or, I'm okay with it, right? I don't think he fits in the Judgment Day anymore. He doesn't fit that dynamic. Now with the addition of Carlitos, JD is out, and Raquel, I don't think you need a Finn Balor. Maybe you need somebody else, or maybe you just keep it as is. But I don't think Finn Balor is really, bringing anything to the Judgment Day anymore. And I think he would just really need to either just go by himself or maybe find another group.
I completely agree. I think he needs to go by himself, honestly. I think they just need to flip him face, let him have a good run there. I do think that one of the guys that's going to get involved, and I'm not sure if he's going to be the new member or not, but if you've noticed in the past 2 Raws who Dom's been talking to backstage every time it keeps panning out, it's Karrion Kross. So Karrion Kross has been talking to Dom multiple times.
Now he
on the
makes
last couple of
sense.
shows. Correct. And if you were to bring him in, he would be the leader. Like that would be just
for sure. He would
doubt.
definitely be. And the thing about Karrion, that he resembles the most of the original Judgment Day, right? That metal, that goth, that that imposing power. Right now, you just have like a group of just like rejects from high school and college that are just have power right now. They're not the imposing force like when Edge, Damian, and Rhea were there, and when Finn came in, right? So I think with the addition of Karrion Kross, thank God that the Final Testament is a thing that's of the past. If they pull that trigger, man, I think that'll be a genius idea. Karrion Kross, leader of the Judgment Day, that'll revitalize that group, honestly.
Big time, because they've been floundering since Priest and Rhea left, because the Judgment Day was in a different tier. I don't know if you remember, they had a ton of belts. They had tag belts. They had Rhea had the women's championship. I remember Dom went down there and got the North American championship. And there was that moment where they're all holding belts up, standing there together. So that was the Super Saiyan version of the Judgment Day. And then as soon as Rhea and Damian get kicked out, which I thought was beautifully done, both of them, how they got screwed over, I thought was great. But it was inevitable, but they just don't have a leader. Finn's not that guy, and he wants to be. He acts like he is, but he's not. He keeps losing, and if they listen to him, they lose. So I just think it's inevitable, and I think that maybe Karrion Kross comes in, and then they just dog walk him in the ring. I think that might probably happen to Finn.
That's my new favorite idea heading into WrestleMania. I really want that to happen. I think that's going to be my mark out moment if that happens.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us here, talking about Monday Night Raw here on Gonzalez Media TV. I want to thank Joel for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate you, broski. Plug in your stuff so people can follow your content, and plug in your podcast. An amazing podcast, by the way.
Thank you. So I do a lot of different things. I make music. I have a conspiratorial podcast that I do called Free the Rabbits. You can find on any platform, plus YouTube, where I showcase video every week. And you can go to Linktree/Joel Thomas Media, and you can get to everything there. And I'm glad that Jose brought me on this show to do some wrestling stuff, because I am definitely around summertime, I'm going to start branching out and doing more wrestling stuff as well. So it's been inevitable. It's been coming, and everybody and their brother's been telling me to do it. So when you hit me up today, I was like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. Let's talk wrestling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And we'll bring you back, man. We'll bring you back every so often so we can keep in touch and talk about what's going on, especially now for the road to WrestleMania. Here on Gonzalez Media TV, we're going to be on it every single day. So just make sure you guys keep an eye out. Follow the channel on all platforms on Gonzalez Media TV on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Smash that notification bell so you never miss whenever we drop brand new content. And also make sure you give us a follow on Gonzalez Media TV on Millions, the only platform that connects content creators and athletes alike, so we can get some sponsorships and brand deals and all that fun stuff that comes to doing this stuff on the internet. So go ahead and head over to Millions to get hooked up today. All right. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys out later. Take care.
Yeah.